All right, awesome. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a pleasure to have this guest join us today. We have the Lexington, or what we Massachusetts people call Flexington native. He is a two-time draft pick, first by the New York Mets, straight out of high school, and then was later a first-round draft pick by the San Francisco Giants out of Boston College. He went through the Giants system. He made it to the major leagues. His first big league hit was a little squibbler that went 468 feet up into the upper deck in Colorado. So after 5 years with the Giants, he was recently just picked up by the Baltimore Orioles, and hopefully he's going to be playing first base and or outfield. And lastly, he has thick eyebrows, perfect hair, and the most gentle hands of all the baseball players that I've had the pleasure of meeting. Welcome to the show, Chris Shaw.
Wow, hey, I feel very welcomed after that intro. Thanks for having me. Me and Skip go way back. It's a guy that there's a small group of guys I think of when I think of New England baseball and the people that you came up with and associate with, and Skip's a pillar of that family for me when I think of guys that are really influential, just because you automatically assume the role as a player from the Northeast of kind of going against the grain. And Skip's a testament to that, going above and beyond with that. And it's something that I'm very fortunate to know Skip, and I'm super excited and happy to be able to be on this pod today.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That's nice of you. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. Thank you. I appreciate that. But before we go on, I just wanted to see how you were doing with COVID and how all of your trainings have been going up to this point.
So definitely some adjustments. There were shutdowns back in Boston, basically since we were sent home from spring training last year. I got back middle of March, kind of showed up at home, not really sure what the situation was going to be moving forward, if there was going to be a season last year, whatnot. Fortunately for me, there were a lot of decent pro ball guys and young draft prospects in the Boston area that we were able to get together, and we were working out at Lexington High School field actually for, I don't know, like 4 straight months, every single day. We called it the HAL. We abbreviated the Hack Attack League. We'd bring the machine down every morning, and we just go bang for 8 hours a day. And it felt like Sandlot ball again. So I mean, as much as COVID is taken from people, and as much difficulty it's placed on just executing, trying to be a bit professional baseball player, it given me back a lot of the love that I had as a little kid playing the game, just because you really do have to look yourself in the mirror and say, what am I killing myself for at this point? Like, why am I trying to figure out how to train when there's restrictions everywhere? There's all these things. You have to get to the point where you either acknowledge you love it and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get to the point you want to be at, or you realize that like you're not willing to do that extra thing that's uncomfortable or whatever. And that right there, that gives you the answer on ultimately what your ceiling is going to be, and then who you can be in baseball. So it's been an interesting year, but there's a lot of lessons that I've taken from it that I don't know that I would have reached this early in my life otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. I like how you talked about seeing how much you're willing to go, or how far you're willing to go. So right now I'm working with a lot of college students, college student athletes, and I always try to tell them, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So it's just that kind of concept of and it can be extremely hard. Some students have lost half of their college career. Imagine if you and I had lost half of our college careers. That would be brutal. So I think it's something where you really got to make the most of it. And I think you said it well. You said it perfectly.
I think that the next level of that as well is staying ready in a baseball body sense and making sure you're in shape, ready to go all the time. But the most important thing that I've found, because I've been on the wrong side of this, just because of the way I've let my thoughts kind of control me, is you got to be in a great spot mentally too, because you don't know when that next opportunity is going to come. And call me crazy, I don't think you're going to find too many people in the world that if you tell them to visualize their dream, their big moment, winning the World Series, hit, whatever, the thoughts that are in their head aren't negative. And when we start to just live our lives based off negativity and, oh, this isn't going well, like how can I, how am I going to get to that next step? That opportunity could come that day. And if you're in that rut, it's gone. And it doesn't matter how good a shape you're in. It doesn't matter how many hours you spent in the cage. You're killing yourself with your mind, and your body, your muscles, everything follows suit. So finding a way to balance, and another thing that COVID really forced me to do was find a way to have conversations with myself and kind of reflect at the end of each day and realize where I'm at and understand that it's okay to feel these things and feel a certain way, but you have to acknowledge them and kind of figure out, why am I getting off my base and how do I get back to it?
Definitely. Definitely. It's always a new challenge every day. You have some good days, you have some bad days, and now, I mean, things are different than before. But before we kind of go into the mindset part of that, I wanted to say that I just wanted to fire off some rapid fire questions just to get some things going, just to get the juices flowing. So first off, what bat and glove models are you using for this season?
So glove, it's going to be, I have a Wilson contract. So I go A2K with my outfield glove, and then I'm A2000, my first baseman's mitt. I'm not sure. I didn't customize one this year just because you have the option of using your merch money towards a customization, or you can, use it for other stuff. Then Wilson has golf. So I used some of the merch money for some golf stuff this year. And bat, I'm all over the place. The model is pretty consistent. It's usually something along the lines of a 271 I-13 AP5 type profile, where it's a thin to standard thickness handle with a slight taper, and then probably a medium sized barrel, I'd say, that just kind of tapers all the way through. I've moved a little bit more towards just like a flatter barrel all the way across, kind of like a softball bat look. But it's got to still have that end load feel in it, because I need to feel the head. And with length and weight is usually a 4.5, 2.5. And I'll go either way with a 1/2 inch to 35 or 34, 32 as well.
I mean, that is a log for me. So I use a 33, 30, 32. So
I had a hitting coach when I was really little that I still have, I should say. We talk all the time. He was a massive supporter of getting as big a bat in your hands as possible. He always used to talk about, God, there's a guy he played with in the Angels system. Name's escaping me right now, but said that you have to swing length just to know that you're swinging the bat and it's not swinging you. And you got to know that your hands are working, and you're not going to be able to make, consistent square contact if you're up there with a wiffle ball bat, swinging out of your shoes, because the adjustability on something like that, you can make that last minute manipulation, but that's not a consistent, repeatable, bat path and swing. And as we're all learning now, that's the name of the game. It's how often can you repeat that stroke and basically stay within your A swing. So getting a bigger bat in my hands forces me to do that.
yeah. All right. Another question, going back a little bit into the memory lane a little bit. Just curious, what team in the Futures Collegiate Baseball League would you say has the best post-game spread?
Ooh, I'd have to think about that one a little bit. Nashua, because I played in Nashua, I don't remember it being great, and that's not a knock against them. As a second year of the league, they're working out the kinks and whatnot. I want to say Martha's Vineyard had a good spread usually underneath those picnic tents out behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say I used to be in OOBV, Old Orchard. So I want to say Martha's Vineyard was pretty good. Nashua was really good too.
Yeah, and then
Brockton was a little bit newer, and they surprised me a little bit. So
yeah, I'm trying. I mean, that was because It's actually funny. One of the people at Cressy one of the trainers there, Tim, was worked for Nashua when I played there, and he's down here at the Jupiter Cressy facility. And we were talking the other day, and just kind of reflecting on that summer as well. And we kind of looked at each other and was like, that was 10 years ago, which is insane to me to think about. It was like 10 or 9 years ago. And thinking back on those things, there's so many memories that stick out as I feel like I was there yesterday. And then you could ask me what my favorite post-game spread was, and I couldn't tell you a thing about that. Sure.
what about Cape Cod?
Oh man, Chatham, we always had a great spread post-game. The host families would always line up on the field. They'd line tables up down the left field line, and we'd all hang out after the game for a long time, eat there. Trying to remember where else. Honestly, at that point, most of us, if we were on the road and it was a late game or anything like that, I don't know how many of us were even grabbing the spread. We were just trying to get on the bus to our cars and then go somewhere else to grab something to eat together, just to kind of get that separation, because there is a lot of just
I get you.
it just gets monotonous.
Yeah. So speaking of being on the road, I'm curious what your longest bus ride was in the minors.
So it's definitely going to be in the Eastern League, because Richmond is the southernmost team in the Eastern League, and Portland is also in that league. I never made the trip to Portland. Weirdly enough, I played in the Eastern League for parts of 3 seasons. I'm from Boston, and I've never played in New Hampshire, Binghamton, or Portland. But I did play in Hartford, so that was a really long one. That was about, I mean, when you're in a bus, if I drove it myself, I could do it in 9 hours probably. And the bus, I think it took us 13 and a half, 14 hours, something like that. So that was a really long one. I did a Vegas to Tacoma one time. That took upwards of 15 hours. I mean, these are not enjoyable trips whatsoever. But the fortunate thing about that, especially in Richmond and Eastern Leagues, we had sleeper buses. So once you had a little bit of tenure in that league, so to say, which isn't necessarily a great thing when you're repeating AA, but when you get to that veteran status, you get the nice beds. So they're enjoyable trips.
Hey, I mean, it pays to be a winner.
Yeah,
I have to say it's important to have.
Yeah, stick around as long as.
Speaking of the minor leagues and the major leagues, I guess we could talk about both. What would be your favorite minor league town? And then what would be your favorite major league town?
Oh, I have a few.
Obviously outside of Boston.
Yeah. Hands down for me, Richmond has been my favorite place I've ever lived. I love the city just for what I could participate in, away from being a professional baseball player. The limited time that we did have, it kind of just fit every need that I would want, for looking for some fun away from the field or whatever. There were a lot of really great bars. The food scene in Richmond is sneaky, and not a lot of people understand how good it is. Just lots of new age type craft places, and just brisket burgers with, loaded tots, and like it's like Southern blended cooking. So I loved it there. Iowa, Des Moines was one of my favorite cities I ever played in. We stayed in a hotel that was situated walking distance from the field, right on the river, and out our backside was I don't even know what street it was, but it was littered with these like German beer gardens, which I found totally out of place for Des Moines, Iowa. But sure enough, there's just a street filled with German beer gardens, and it was awesome. I mean, just a lot of fun. We played like 3-day games while we were there too, so we'd finish up, walk over, grab some suds, and just relax post game. And then Sacramento as well was. I mean, I've been there for parts of 4 years. It's a very special place to me, and a place that I've got a lot of memories in, just the city I love. And then for the big leagues, I mean, my trips that I have made, I love San Diego. San Diego is incredible. The playing surface there is like, it's a golf course. It's like Augusta National. St. Louis is awesome. And then, I mean, Fenway. I got the chance to play the Red Sox in 2019. And, you can't even put into words what that means, growing up as close to Fenway as I did, to be able to come back to it. That was really special.
So now that you're in the AL East, hopefully we'll see you back there in Boston a little more often.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
Quick story before we delve into things. I was in New York City. It was right around the time that you got called up. So you were playing for San Francisco. I was in New York City just for a weekend trip. And I had a friend in Brooklyn, and we were just running around town. And one of the last stops that night, I want to say it was maybe like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So 7 or 8 o'clock your time, in California. And I told my roommate, I was like, hey, one of the guys I used to play ball with just got called up. And as I was pointing up to the TV screen, I was like, yeah, I pointed, and we looked up, and all of a sudden you were on the screen, funny enough. And I was like, no way, I know that guy. So it was just awesome timing, small world stuff. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you say that, Skip, because when you'd reached out a couple of weeks ago, I was just scrolling through our text conversation. I saw that text that you had sent me about that night. So just for validation's purposes, he is telling the truth there. That is a true story, 100%. But I was just reading what you had said to me, man, and that's things like that when I look back on and kind of see the other people in your life that you've come across, and that feel like they've kind of seen you go through stuff, and then seeing you get to that point as well, and to feel the need to reach out and let you know. I feel like that means a ton, and it goes a long way. I mean, I read that 2 years removed, and it gave me goosebumps, and those are the things that you can't put into words what they mean. So thank you, Skip, for that text message way back when.
Of course. I mean, hey, I'm happy to be a part of your journey as well. So it's really cool to see all the success that you've had.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get to it. In my line of work, like I mentioned earlier, we work with a lot of athletes. I mean, sometimes 16, 17 years old up through college. So I've noticed a lot of transitional phases. So I will meet with athletes maybe starting in their junior, senior year in high school, and then we'll kind of work with them up through the transition into college, and then I'll see the transition after college to higher levels of performance, and sometimes they go to pro. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about what your transitions looked like from high school up to Boston College. Obviously, you were a draft pick going into Boston College. So essentially what you were doing to prepare for Boston College while you were in high school.
So what I was doing, and kind of what I look back on and things I want to like critique, and things that worked and didn't work for me are kind of two separate things. I was confident when I was in high school. But it was a fake confidence, if that makes any sort of sense. It was almost like this shell. I played in a public school league. I played, half the year on ice. I was a hockey player, and I would come out and get loose for 2 weeks, go to baseball tryouts, and essentially dominate. And I never really found baseball would be all that difficult. And through that, I'm not going to say that it affected my work ethic at all, because it didn't. I've always had a motor. I've always, been able to know what I need to do to get something done. But it does kind of filter into the way you process failure. And what I didn't realize was that I didn't know how to fail. I had no clue what it meant to be vulnerable and to not succeed in a state of vulnerability, and to know that the decision you make on how you're going to interpret, not meeting your goals, not pleasing somebody, it doesn't just affect you in that moment, like that, your state of mind and the way you're going to feel the rest of the day. There's a trickle down effect from that. It affects the way you wake up the next day, and the way you think about, all right, now I got to kind of figure out what's next, blah, blah. And it's almost like fear. It is the fear of failure, dictating the way you are and basically who you are. So for me, the biggest godsend I ever had in my life, outside of my family and my very close support system, was Pete Frates. I met Pete when I was 13 years old, and he basically took me under his wing. It was a situation where we were talking all the time. And my freshman year at BC, he came onto the staff as the director of baseball operations, because he kind of knew where he was with the disease, and kind of where his abilities to travel were heading. And that was the worst baseball performance wise year of my life. I batted 165 after being this heralded recruit coming in that had a Cape contract without playing a day in college baseball, just drafted out of a public school, hadn't failed once in my life. And here I am just getting destroyed. And Pete is going through the worst disease in the world and showing up every day happy, glad to see everybody, choosing to be positive and choosing to look at the things that he can do in that day to not only help himself, but to help other people. And if you're somebody who wants to be successful, I don't care what it is, you have to look at people who have done it before you and pick up on these little attributes and these little things. And I just kept watching him in talking to other people and watching people around Pete. You notice when somebody walks into a room and everyone gravitates towards them. It doesn't matter if the guy's a physicist, if he's a chef, whoever it is, like personality and things like that attract people are qualities that, in my mind, successful people all should strive to be. And I started just to think about how I wanted to present to other people. And it started as just like talking myself into it just being like, I'm not giving you the choice today to feel like shit. Get up, smile, like put a smile on, and let's go. But I didn't get there without failing and going through the crap. And I guess the biggest thing I can say is finding somebody that you really admire and respect and can get to know on a personal level, and using them, learning. There's no shame in going to people and asking for help, whatever it is. And for me, it was swallowing my pride and saying like, hey, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to struggle and not think the world's ending. I don't know how to go for a weekend and then go home Sunday night and finish my report that's due the next day and manage school and baseball at the same time while also being a good roommate and a good teammate and all these things. I don't know how to not let the one thing I care the most about in the world, which is baseball, how I can let failing at that not affect every other aspect of my life. And I had the best person in the world to talk to. That Pete's life was being taken from him, and he's not letting that affect the facets of his life, his friends, his relationships, his impact on students. And once I got to that point, it just it became empowering, and you start to kind of just feel like you can take anything on. And I knew that there was more, and there's been more roadblocks, and there's gonna be more roadblocks. But the longer you can kind of keep that mentality of, forward, it's not about feeling bad about myself. It's about what is feeling bad about myself in this moment mean long term. And it, for me, Pete was everything.
Yeah. Now I miss him. Pete would, I mean, I met him a couple of times, and I mean, it was such a powerful experience every time I met him. For those of you don't know, Pete is he was a player at Boston College. He was diagnosed with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, um, and he is essentially, he made a huge push for research and fundraising and started the Ice Bucket Challenge. And he was someone who basically changed the world in one way or another, and just such a powerful person. So I'm really happy that he was part of your journey as well as mine. All right. So going from your freshman year, like you had said, you had a little bit of a speed bump, and then eventually going into your sophomore year and the Cape Cod League, and doing all that. What would you say that the difference was? Obviously, other than what you had just mentioned, but what was your mindset on campus? What was your approach like?
I this mentality I go to once in a while that I sort of have to toe this line about not going too far either way with it. But it essentially is the thought of, you know, it can't get any worse. It like, what is it? What does trying hurt? What does putting yourself through this and believing in yourself and just going all in? What is it going to ultimately hurt moving forward? And for me, after my freshman year, and this is something I've actually reflected on a ton, I was letting the thoughts of people outside of me basically consume the way I viewed myself. And, an example is, I remember first week after my freshman year of college, before I was going to go down to New Bedford and play that summer, I had my buddy was having a bunch of people over, and I had batted 165 and just got home. And I remember not wanting to be around my best friends I grew up with, because I felt like I let them down. I felt like I went off to college and wasn't who they thought I was. And I can sit here now and realize how ridiculous and silly sounding that is. But when I was 18 years old, that was paralyzing. And that was something that I remember getting out of New Bedford. And I was so miserable. I just said, like, what does it matter? Like, you've already failed on the field. Why are you going to let that dictate the way that you live the rest of your life? Why is that going to influence the way that my friends who, push come to shove, they don't give a crap how I do on the field? I could tell them that I'm retiring and I'm going to get my plumbing license tomorrow, and it's all the same to them just because of the relationship we have. And I went down to New Bedford, and I had a great manager. I played for Rick Miller, who was with the Red Sox for a long time until Fred Lynn came in. And, Rick was a guy that grabbed me the first day, and he was like, because we had just worked out, took batting practice, and he was holding the stat sheet, and he's like, "Is this right?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "You had 165 this year." He's like, what happened? And I started talking, and he just was like, doesn't matter. Like that's the past. He's like, we're gonna work together, and that gave me faith to know that I had a guy that was with me, understanding that the hardest thing I'd gone through in my life athletically at that point was and was something that I didn't have an explanation for. He was sitting there telling me that I didn't need to have an answer because it's done with. It's the past. And he's challenging me to move forward and to be what he is seeing I am. He doesn't he didn't watch the season of me hitting 165. He watched one workout and said that's not who you are. And for me to kind of have a big leaguer saying that, it meant the world to me. And I batted 335 that summer, went back into BC, and I was first team all ACC as a sophomore, and just put the pedal to the metal, and that was that. I just kept going and constantly had those conversations with myself to know that, hey, it's gonna happen again. You're gonna fail. You're going to go through these things. How are you gonna react the next time? And going through those things and just being cognizant of it is kind of what has allowed me to I haven't had a bad experience with professional baseball. I feel that way. I truly do. Every single thing that I can look back on happening, it has been a blessing, and it's something that I'm glad I've gone through, because baseball isn't who I am. It's my love, it's my passion, but like, we're all working on refining every part of our life. And I've had some incredible experiences that I've been thrown into that have kind of helped shape me into where I'm at now. And I'm really eager to keep growing in that same way.
Yeah, I was going to say I had a similar situation, I guess, where I came in as a freshman. I thought I was all that. I essentially just fell on my face. I felt like I was ashamed to show my face. I wanted to hide. And essentially the same thing. I mean, a lot of players say, hey, it's okay. The most important thing you can do is think about the next game. Think about what comes next. Think about your next at bat. So essentially just moving forward. So I think that you really made a good point there. You just got to move on. You got to move forward, and you can't get stuck in the past. So I think now a lot of athletes these days really struggle sometimes. I've noticed that it seems like they might have a really bad experience. Maybe not one bad game, but maybe they have a bad week, a bad month. And that is something that really sticks to them, It's I can see where it becomes tough for people to drop just all of that luggage and move forward. So I would say now, I'm curious, as a teammate, going from, I mean, your freshman year as a freshman player to the next step, what was different for you as a teammate, and maybe as a leader? What would you say that the team dynamics looked like?
Yeah. So and that's something, the teammate aspect, that's something that is constantly growing, and just getting better. I'm trying to think of the correct way to describe this, because that's something that means a lot to me. That is, at the end of the day, I don't I, I care about what my stats say. That'd be ridiculous to say that I don't, but the impact that I have with the guys I'm with every single day, and the coaches that I'm playing for, means a hell of a lot more to me than batting 330 in the Carolina League when I'm 19 and acting like a D-bag the entire time. And one of the things that I've been, again, like, reflection seems to be a big theme with this conversation. One of the things that I started to challenge myself with was looking back and trying to decide that whether my mentality at given points in my athletic career was dictated by performance and how I was doing. So it would be easy to go back and say, like, yeah, I was a great teammate in college. I bet, because after my freshman year, I didn't bat below 330, and nothing was difficult. And once I got into pro ball, it's a much different setting. It's not the same guys every single day. You're going through, potentially 100 different teammates in a season if you're moving levels and you're bouncing around, and there's a draft every year, there's trades every year, so you're constantly meeting new people, and you're constantly going to be going through ups and downs with your own performance. And what I started to realize was, when I was going bad and I wasn't the veteran or the rookie on a team, I wanted to talk to somebody. I wanted there to be somebody who had gone through something similar to me. And there were times where I had teams where I felt like there was nobody who was, one, approachable that you could talk to about that, and two, looking for it. And that was another thing that I started to realize when I thought back on times that I was going through it, is like, some people aren't going to want to speak out and talk. But in a clubhouse at any given time, there has got to be somebody who has gone through something similar to you. So for me, it became kind of my MO to look out and see, all right, he's going through something that I went through, and I'll reach out. I'll go talk to him. Christ, I had the yips at one point. If I think you got a funk going on right now, let's go talk. Let's play. I'm your throwing partner now. I don't throw it over my head, dude. I don't care. Like, I'll go get it. I'm not going to say a word. I started wanting to be the person that created a clubhouse where everyone was looking out for each other, because it's not the eyewash looking out for each other, like, oh, we're a family just because we say we are. It's like, no, we actually care because we've been through it, and we know that it just creates a better environment when people think you care about each other. And it takes effort, and it takes, guts, in a sense, to look people in the eye and say, like, I know you're struggling. I went through it worse than you did. Whatever you want to talk about. And that's kind of the evolution of being a good teammate, I think, is understanding that it's not just showing up and going out with the boys and being there if they want to go grab a beer, whatever it is. It's taking all your experiences of what you've gone through to that point, the teams you've been on that have done well, and applying them and being open and working. Because, I mean, it's a team. It's not me and 30 other individual guys who are kind of just like making sure we're all the best versions of ourselves. It's a collective initiative. And that's kind of where I've just started moving. At the alternate site last year, I loved the fact that there were a lot of young guys there. I loved having the recently signed guys, the 16-year-old international guys, just because I felt like I'd been through a lot of different parts of professional baseball, and I could talk to them and have the conversations I wish I had when I was in my first couple of years. So just like being cognizant of that type of stuff moving forward has kind of been my goal as a teammate.
Yeah, for me, I can definitely relate to where you have some new teammates almost every day, it feels like. When I was doing independent ball, we went through, I want to say, 18 players in maybe a month and a half.
Yeah.
So it's tough for me to look at my teammates. I mean, first, I don't even know if it's somebody who's going to last, or or I might even look at it as a guy who might take my spot. So I went from college, where you have the same group of people for 4 years essentially, and you know that you have that brotherhood, you have that feeling, that connection, and those are my friends, and it's cool. But at the same time, if you're not good, you're still on the team, and it is what it is, and you have people to hang out with. But then when you move up to pro ball, if one of the guys I'm playing with, if he goes for 0 for 11, he's out, he's gone.
Right, and
it's an interesting dynamic to see how that looks as a teammate.
Yeah, and I mean, 2019, the Sacramento team that won the national championship, 97, 98 different players used in that entire season. So it's a part of the game, and
yeah.
if you can't be somebody who, you know, works well with people that you meet rapidly and constantly changing, it I don't know how good of a teammate you can honestly be in a sport like baseball.
Right. Right. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about your trip through the minors. I mean, starting from the beginning when you were drafted all the way up to the major leagues. What would you say that some of the habits that you might have picked up on were, or some of the things that you decided to, I guess, adopt that helped you move up and stay there when you did move up?
I, I think that for me, I've always kind of been it like at my own pace, so to say. And what I mean by that is it's a constant evolution for me into, you know, where I think I need to be and who I want to be. And in saying that, when I got into baseball, into professional baseball, it was, you know, I was wide eyed. I thought I had an idea of like which guys to follow, like who leaders are. But the more I played, it just became more and more clear to me what needed to be done and what my mindset needed to be. And the thing I wish I could just have, wish I could have had from the time I signed is just understanding the patience it requires to be in the moment and understand that it is a process. It is like in every facet of the game. It's gonna take a while. You're not gonna know, like the way I feel right now, heading into, like, I'm going into new spring training with a new team, new org, new coach, new everything, and I'm pumped. I'm excited. There isn't 1 ounce of fear, anxiety, anything like that in me because I've done this. I know what to expect. I know what my mental state has to be, and that's because I've been playing a long time. And a lot of the things that caused fear and anxiety for me back then were just the impatience of the unknown. You know, just not trusting in my ability, my processing ability, trusting in just who I was as a person to be enough. And the more you play, the more stuff you see, the more guys you play with, the more coaches you have, all these things, it molds you into, you know, into to where you're going. And I just wish that the patience was something that I could have had that entire time.
Yeah, again, I think obviously you're in a very good place and you're ready to start 2021. So now I'm curious, what does Chris Shaw have in store for 2021?
Big year.
What should we expect for you?
You know, I'm very confident heading into this year. I've made a lot of adjustments, a lot of changes, and I've just become a lot more aware of kind of what I need to work on, why I need to work on it, and kind of how to get to that end result. And again, it's a process. This is something that has taken me 7 years of professional baseball, to get to a point where I have, at the moment, I'm in arguably the worst position I've been in, with regards to, you know, future outlook, if you want to just look at it on paper. And I have the most confidence I've ever had. And that's because I trust it. I trust what I've been doing. I trust the at bats I've had over my career. All of this stuff, it's all an aggregate of what the end result is going to be. And for me, I feel like I've gone through a lot of crap, and I've been forced to, you know, buckle down and deal with some things that were completely out of my control. And the hardest part for me during all that was getting to the point where results stopped being kind of the thing I could rely on to tell me where I was at. Because I really haven't had a bad year. The worst seasons I've had are still, good by most standards. And getting to a point where you can separate all of that and just go off the way you're feeling in the moment and assess, the state you're in to kind of dictate the way you think moving forward, is I feel like where I'm at right now is allowing me to view anything that comes my way. Like, you could tell me that there's a new league starting on the moon tomorrow, and that's the only option I have, and I'll go do it, and I'll be optimistic about it because it's just what my scenario is. It is my reality. I think that's a big thing I've gotten used to and tried to become good at is whatever the situation is that I find myself in, good or bad, doesn't matter because it is the situation and it is the reality. I got designated 3 weeks ago, and I was on the phone with my dad, and we were just talking it through. He's like, "So what are the possible scenarios here?" And I told him, like, "Hey, this could happen, or this could happen." He's like, "All right, what do you want to have happen?" And obviously my response is like, "Oh, I want best chance to go play in the big leagues." And we start talking. He's like, "Yeah, well, you're feeling okay about it?" He's like, "You nervous?" And I was like, and I kind of stopped myself. I was just realizing whatever happens does not matter. My work, my alarm clock, my dinner time, all those things can't change. They cannot change because if I'm going to be who I want to be and I'm going to be the player I want to be, I can't let an uncontrollable thing that happened in a 5-second decision derail 10 months I've been putting in every single day of work and getting my mindset into a good spot. Those are the things that you look back on 20 years from now and you're just like, that was what took me off my course. Like, that's what took me off my path. Like, that could have happened at any other point in my career. Like, it doesn't matter. I have no control over that. What I do have control over is getting up the next day and going even harder in the gym and going harder in the cage and having a finer attention to detail. And for me, failing, getting my ass kicked, basically feeling unwanted is what has forced me to get to this spot. But now that I've gotten to this spot, all those words and things that I just said, unwanted things that I feel like pushed me here, I realized those weren't even real things. None of that mattered. What happens, and the past, it was there, and now it's gone. It's done. The present moment is the only thing that I have an impact on, and that's the way I'm choosing to live moving forward. So 2021, I don't know. Today, I'm going to kick some ass, and that's going to be the goal moving forward.
Hey, I mean, I was expecting you to say hitting some balls and hurting some feelings, but no, but that's all that really matters. I really like what you had said, controlling what you can control and just leaving the rest. I think I've noticed a lot of students or athletes or other people that we work with on a daily basis, and they let a lot of other things, like you said, other people's opinions, other people's comments, other people's behaviors and perspectives really dictate what we do. And it should be the other way around. We should be dictating, we should tell ourselves what to do and kind of control that. So I think you really hit the nail on the head, or hit it right on the nose. So I guess my last question now, I'm curious as to what your advice would be for any young athlete out there, anyone who has big dreams that wants to make something happen. What would be your advice for them?
find a way to be happy. For me, the reason I've gotten to this point of just thinking in terms of almost absolutes for me, and creating boundaries in my head, was because I realized I wasn't happy, because the thing that I loved more than anything in the world, baseball, not succeeding in that wasn't allowing me to enjoy every other part of my life. And then that amplifies when you start letting the uncontrollables drive you crazy. And I just got fed up. This summer, I'll be completely honest with you. I was sitting there. I hadn't been initially invited to the alternate site. As a member of the 40-man roster, having played in the big leagues year before and feeling like I check every box to be there, sitting at home, being forced to quarantine, watching baseball go on, it was like one of the darkest places I've ever been in my life. And I just kept waking up, just sitting there and just realizing how mad I was. I was waking up angry. And I got to a point where I was just like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy person. I'm done. And I got help. I reached out to, some different sports psychologists and started talking it through. And I said, look, I know what's making me unhappy right now. I need help figuring out why and getting a game plan on understanding these are things that can't have a grasp on the way I live my life moving forward, because it's going to hurt me in my social life, and professionally it's going to limit my chances. And I found a routine. I found a way to process. It's not something you just decide overnight you're going to do. You got to put the time in. This is something that I do weekly. And I've been doing it for, close to 11 months now. And it's every single week. It's, hour plus, and I talk it out. I whatever is on my mind, whatever is something that I worry could cause some stress down the line, or take me off what I feel should be my path moving forward. It's out there and it's open, and I bounce it off people. And when I started prioritizing my happiness, like, I started finding the swing change I needed to make. I started realizing, wow, okay, I don't actually need to worry about this part of the zone that they're only throwing me in the part of the zone I crush. Like, I can lock in on what I do really well, and trust that. Like, it opened everything up, and it made it seem easier, because I wasn't stressed and worried about all these negative potential outcomes, because I talked it through and realized how just in my head and hypothetical everything was. Like, I could still control the fact that I can go into the gym tomorrow and work on what I need to work on to be a better baseball player. And that's why I said earlier in the thing that, it's important to make sure we're always ready physically for that next opportunity. But I think that the key, the money maker, the key to happiness is making sure you're mentally good for that next opportunity. You have to be open and confident and just happy. And like, who the hell wouldn't want to look back on life and say, like, I was happy in every moment that I was conscious of it. And that's been the biggest effort I've made.
That's powerful. Wow. I think.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's. Oh, that seals the deal of the importance of your mind and how well an athlete does, and living their lives. So I think it's something that in baseball, it's really a game of routine. So if you're having a good routine, if you have a good routine, you're going to have success. If you have a bad routine, then it's probably going to go bad. So I think that kind of wrapped everything up really nicely. And essentially, so I wanted to ask, where can the viewers find you on social media? Where can we follow you on your journey?
So, I'm not super active. I'll probably start being a little more once the season starts, just because I tend to. But it's Shawsome 24 I that was, I understand it's not the best sounding name, but my uncle was he works in marketing, and we ended up doing that like my senior year of high school, because I had a like 10-digit number account or something at the point. I was, a draft prospect in high school, and he said, "Oh, we got to do something cool." So we landed on Shoss, and my brother was Authenticity for a little bit. So Shossman 24. If you guys want to give a follow, Twitter and Instagram. That's all I have.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, hey, I think that's pretty creative. I like it.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for all your time. I really appreciate you joining us today, and all of your words and your comments. And I hope that everyone is going to be able to take something home with them.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I mean, these are things I love talking about because I think they are, that important. So good work, Skip, getting the word out there. That's huge, man. And, Adrian.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right, I'll stop the recording now.